Salam, peace be upon you. My name is Mohammed Layiq Sediqi, the father of Holophase. Part 35 Governance Systems and Phi Consensus, the Reality Commons. Remember the language we are learning. There is one field, Phi, the Holophase, one continuous cyclic movement from which all of reality unfolds. When Phi begins to change, its first derivatives appear, and with them, the three dimensions show themselves at once. Time as omega, space as k, and motion as v, built from both. Every higher derivative is a finer question about how phi changes, and each one casts three shadows together: a time shadow, a space shadow, and a motion shadow. These echoes mix and weave into one another, forming the patterns we call fields, particles, bodies, thoughts, and worlds. In this picture, everything that exists is a living tapestry of phi, endlessly echoing through its derivatives and their dimensional shadows. Today, we listen to just one of those echoes. You enter the chamber of public reason. This is not a parliament of shouting voices, nor a silent courtroom. It is an amphitheater where the walls themselves are alive with data. A vast, three-dimensional hologram pulses at the center, a real-time phi map of the bioregion. You see atmospheric coherence indices, groundwater phase gradients, urban thermal signatures, the gentle pulse of the reality internet. This is the shared sensory organ of the polity. Today's question is profound. Should the community approve Operation Leyline, a proposed phi patch to subtly enhance local rainfall by guiding atmospheric currents? The proposers present their predictive models. Skeptics raise concerns. But the debate does not descend into he said, she said. Instead, participants query the shared field. They ask the hologram to run competing simulations, to display historical analogs, to show the predicted stress on downstream coherence budgets. The data converges, not perfectly, but with a clarity that isolates the true unknowns from the ideological noise. This is FITA governance, collective decision-making where the first and final authority is not power, but measurement against the shared field. Your new role is that of the governance architect. You are learning to design the institutions, protocols, and social contracts that allow a phi-literate civilization to wield reality-shaping power without tearing itself apart, to turn the terrifying potential of foundries into a stable, just, and beautiful collaboration with the universe. Scene: the Chamber of Public Reason, the advocate for Operation Leyline gestures at the hologram. Our models, verified against three independent digital twins, predict a 15% increase in growing season precipitation within this watershed, with a coherence resonance bonus for the alpine meadow ecosystems here. The data streams are open. Anyone can inspect the model's assumptions, written in phi grammar. A farmer from the next valley speaks. Your model shows a 2% decrease in coherence for my aquifer recharge zone. My community's phi balance sheet cannot absorb that risk without compensation. Her statement is not anecdote. She points to her community's public phi ledger, showing their current coherence assets and liabilities. The Chamber's consensus algorithm, a blend of AI mediation and human judgment, highlights the trade-off: a net regional gain, but a localized burden. A new proposal emerges, synthesized in real time. Approve the patch, but with a coherence transfer from the benefiting watershed to the farmer's community, funded from the action cost savings of the increased rainfall. The hologram recalculates. Both ledgers now show solvency. A vote is taken, not on belief, but on the refined proposal. It passes. The decision, the rationale, the data, and the compensation contract are all stamped into the immutable public audit trail. This is governance as applied coherence seeking. Our puzzle is one of collective sovereignty over reality. Given that the phi field is the ultimate commons, the shared substrate of all existence, and given that we now have the tools to edit it, how do we design governance systems that prevent the abusive concentration of this power, that build public consensus on physical facts through transparent measurement, and that translate shared values into collective actions that are coherent, reversible, and just? We are moving from governing people to governing our interaction with the field. The language role, the sovereignty over field skill. This part teaches a political engineering skill. It is the skill of designing the social technical systems, sensor networks, verification protocols, deliberation formats, decision algorithms, and legal frameworks that distribute the power to perceive, interpret, and ethically edit the phi field across a whole society, preventing tyranny and fostering wise stewardship. Our core question about phi is, if the phi field is the one true commons, what are the necessary conditions for a polity to manage it sustainably and justly? Specifically, how do we build a shared, trusted picture of the field state, epistemic coherence? And how do we design decision processes that translate that shared picture into actions that respect both physical constraints and human values, practical coherence? We are moving from politics as the art of the possible to governance as the engineering of the coherent. The anchor image, the ship with 1,000 captains. We will use the anchor image of a great sailing ship on an unknown ocean where every crew member is also a captain. There is no single dictator at the helm. Instead, the ship is covered in instrumentation, wind vanes, sonar, sextants, salinity probes, all feeding data to a shared navigation table. Any crew member can propose a course change, but to be adopted, the proposal must demonstrate coherence with the instrument readings, the ship's capabilities, and the agreed destination. Others can challenge the reading of an instrument, but they must propose a better calibration or a more accurate sensor. Disputes are resolved by adding more sensors or improving shared models, not by force. The course that emerges is not anyone's pure will. It is the collectively discovered path of least resistance toward the shared goal, given the truth of the sea and the wind. Our governance must be this: a ship of state, where power is checked not only by other powers, but by shared, recalcitrant reality. The coherence selection principle in governance. In governance, coherence is alignment between collective decisions, physical truth, and shared values. Constructive resonance, alignment, means the governance process produces decisions that are informed by accurate fee measurements, respect physical constraints, coherence budgets, action costs, and are seen as legitimate by those affected because the process was transparent and fair. The system learns and stabilizes. Destructive resonance, dissonance, means decisions are based on false or manipulated data, ignore physical limits, leading to crash, or are imposed by force against the will of the governed. The system generates conflict, instability, and eventual collapse. The governance architect's mantra is about grounded legitimacy. If the measurement is public and the process is fair, the decision stands. If the data is hidden or the process corrupt, the decision is void. Core mechanisms, the architecture of phi governance. We build governance in layers, from the foundation of measurement to the pinnacle of choice. 1. The public phi sensor network, the shared retina. This is the non-negotiable foundation, a distributed, redundant network of environmental and infrastructure sensors, all HLS-calibrated, continuously publishing data to an open ledger. What it measures: atmospheric coherence indices, electromagnetic spectrum use, groundwater phase, soil stress fields, urban thermal flows, even the signature of active phi patches. Ownership and control. The network is a public utility. Its core calibration standards are maintained by a decentralized consortium of universities, citizen science groups, and international standards bodies. No single government or corporation controls the primary reference. Think of it as the global positioning system for reality. The right to measure. A fundamental civic right is the right to deploy and certify a compliant phi sensor. This prevents any entity from monopolizing the measurement of reality. 2. The open source verification protocol, the grammar of fact. Data alone is not truth. We need agreed upon methods to go from raw sensor readings to validated claims. HLS as the lingua franca. All claims about the phi field must be expressed in HLS standardized terms. The coherence index dropped is meaningless. The omega-7 coherence index at grid node 45b dropped from 0.92 to 0.81 plus minus 0.02 between 1400 and 1500 UTC is verifiable. Reproducible analysis pipelines. The algorithms used to process sensor data into higher-level claims, for example, dispatch, cause, that effect, must be open source and containerized. Anyone can run the same analysis on the same data to check the result. The challenge protocol. If you dispute a claim, you don't just argue. You fork the analysis pipeline, propose your own, and run it. The system highlights the differences in assumptions. Truth-seeking becomes a collaborative debugging process. 3. Distributed fee-state consensus, agreeing on what is. Building on 10.5.4, we need a robust way for the network to agree on the current state of shared fee resources. Byzantine-Fault-Tolerant sensor fusion. The network continuously runs a consensus algorithm on key metrics, for example, the regional coherence budget. Even if some sensors are faulty or malicious, the network converges on a consensus value. This provides a single source of truth for the state of the commons that is hard to corrupt. Reality anchor nodes. A subset of ultra-stable, geographically distributed reference sensors, perhaps in deep mines or on the moon, provide an unwavering baseline to detect large-scale manipulation attempts. 4. The decision orchestrator, from facts to choices. This is where values and trade-offs enter. The orchestrator is a suite of tools, not an AI ruler. Predictive simulation arena. Proposals for action, a new patch, a regulation, are run against the public digital twin. Their predicted impacts on all public fee ledgers are simulated and displayed. Impact accounting. Every proposal must include a complete fee impact statement, showing its effects on action cost, coherence budgets, topological risk, and equity, who bears costs, who gets benefits. Deliberation formats. Structured conversations, like the one in the Chamber of Public Reason, that focus on clarifying values, negotiating trade-offs visible in the impact statement, and designing compensation for localized burdens. Decision rules. Different scales of decision use different rules. Local patch, maybe a supermajority of affected stakeholders. Global coherence budget allocation, a complex democratic process with fee-literate representation. The key is that the data and simulations are the common floor for all discussions. The coherence criterion, epistemic coherence and legitimate choice. Our coherence criterion for governance has two parts. 1. Epistemic coherence. The polity maintains a shared, accurate, and publicly trusted picture of the state of the commons, as evidenced by high consensus on basic measurements and the ability to resolve factual disputes through measurement, not force. 2. Legitimate choice. Collective decisions that edit the shared field are perceived as legitimate by those affected because the process was transparent, the physical trade-offs were clear, and mechanisms for consent, compensation, or appeal were available. A system that has truth but no fairness is technocratic tyranny. A system that has fairness but no truth is collective fantasy. We need both. The dissonance indicator, the ministry of reality. The primary dissonance indicator is the emergence of a centralized controller of the measurement layer. This could be a government agency that controls sensor calibration and declares official reality, a corporation that owns the dominant sensor network and sells verified data feeds, any entity that can selectively blind the public sensor network to certain effects or generate spoofed fee signatures to create false facts. When the shared retina can be manipulated, governance becomes a contest to control perception, not to solve problems. This is the ultimate corruption, making the field itself lie for power. The safety rail, the separation of powers, measurement versus policy. Our cardinal safety rail is a strict constitutional separation. 1. The measurement layer is sacred and autonomous. The public fee sensor network, its consensus protocols, and its calibration standards are legally and technically protected from interference by the policymaking bodies. They are a fourth branch of government in a sense, the branch of reality. Its mandate is singular: measure and publish the truth of the field. 2. No entity controls the primary reference. The ultimate calibration standards, like the HLS master references, are maintained by a decentralized international custodian council with built-in adversarial oversight. It's designed to be as politically neutral as the definition of the second or the meter. 3. Policy must ride on open data. Governments, corporations, and communities make decisions using the public data, but they cannot alter it. They can build their own models and interpretations, but the raw sensor feed and the consensus state are inviolable public records. The safety rail rule: it must be easier to change the government than to change the calibration of the public fee sensor network. The measurement of reality is not a political tool. A measurement scene, the agricultural patch debate. Let's enact our roadmap's measurement scene. Scene: A public hearing on whether CloudSculpt Patch Alpha is affecting regional rainfall. The patch operator says it increases downwind precipitation by 10% with no side effects. Downstream communities report drier wells and blame the patch. 1. The public sensor network's historical data for precipitation and groundwater is retrieved. 2. Independent groups, a university, a citizen science collective, an international weather agency, run attribution analysis. They use the open source pipelines to compare the observed data against the world without the patch simulation. 3. All groups publish their HLS formatted results and confidence intervals to the public ledger. 1. All three independent analyses converge. The patch causes a plus 12% precipitation in target zone A, but a minus 5% groundwater recharge in downstream zone B, due to altered atmospheric flow. 2. The data is undeniable. The patch operator's claim is partially falsified. 3. Orchestrator simulates options. Shut down the patch, modify it, or compensate zone B. 4. A mediated negotiation between the operator and zone B community results in a coherence transfer agreement. The operator funds a water retention fee project in zone B, restoring the lost recharge. 5. The patch continues, under stricter monitoring, with the new compensation logged on the ledger. 6. Pass. The system used measurement to find truth, and then used transparent negotiation to resolve the conflict justly, without denying the physical facts. The fail, reality war or tyranny. Fail A, data war. The operator releases its own proprietary data showing no effect, while suing to block independent sensor deployment near its facility. Two contradictory realities exist. No consensus is possible. Fail B, capture. The government regulatory body, influenced by the operator, certifies only the operator's data and declares the matter settled. The public network's contrary data is dismissed as uncalibrated. Fail C, disengagement. The downstream community lacking PHY literacy cannot engage with the technical data. They feel powerless and resort to protests that are ignored because they have no data. Fail. The governance system has broken down. Either truth is fragmented or power has overruled measurement. The prediction spine, the hallmarks of PHY governance. A successfully implemented PHY governance system will yield these predictions. 1. Reduction in politicized fact disputes. Societies will see a dramatic decline in partisan battles over settled physical facts, like climate change impacts, public health statistics, infrastructure failure causes, because the public sensor network provides a politically neutral arbiter. Disagreement will shift to values and trade-offs, which is where democratic politics should live. 2. Increased policy effectiveness and anti-fragility. Policies, environmental regulations, infrastructure investments, zoning, will be more effective because they are based on accurate models and real-time feedback from the sensor network. The system will become anti-fragile. It will learn and adapt from small failures detected early, preventing large collapses. 3. High detection probability for covert edits. Any attempt to run a large-scale, unauthorized fee patch or to secretly manipulate a field will have a high probability of detection by the distributed sensor network. The surveillance of the field itself becomes a powerful deterrent against reality corruption. Falsifiability, when governance fails the field. Our falsifiability threads test the resilience of the system. Falsifier 1, the captured sensorium. If the public fee sensor network and its consensus algorithms are successfully captured by a powerful minority, state or corporate, and are used to systematically enforce a false reality that benefits them while contradicting the measurements of any remaining independent observers, then the system has catastrophically failed. It has created the ultimate tool of tyranny, control over perceived reality itself. If the system, while maintaining accurate measurement, becomes so complex and specialized that ordinary citizens completely disengage from the verification and deliberation process, leaving it to a priestly class of field-literate technocrats, then it has failed as democratic governance. It becomes a benevolent dictatorship of experts, lacking the legitimacy and wisdom that comes from broad participation. Empowerment requires literacy. Tri-unity in governance. Governance itself is a triune process of field management. Time echo, deliberation, and legacy. The rhythm of governance, the pace of decision-making, the duration of deliberations, the intergenerational perspective enforced by long-term fee impact statements. This is governance's temporal wisdom, its connection to past and future. Space echo, subsidiarity and jurisdiction. The spatial scale of governance, the principle that decisions should be made at the closest possible level to the affected field, subsidiarity. The mapping of jurisdictions onto coherent fee regions, watersheds, airsheds, coherence basins, rather than arbitrary political lines. This is its spatial logic. Motion echo, adaptation and enforcement. The dynamic process of governance, the feedback loops between measurement, decision, action, and remeasurement. The motion of law enforcement as the rollback of unauthorized patches. This is its dynamic life. Lanterns across scales, governing the field. The challenge of governing a shared physical system is universal. Near scale, cellular governance, apoptosis. In a multicellular body, cells constantly vote on whether to live or die, apoptosis, based on local chemical and mechanical signals, a biochemical fee consensus. If a cell ignores the consensus and proliferates, cancer, the body's immune enforcement system removes it. This is fee governance at the cellular level. Measurement, signals, consensus, tissue homeostasis, and enforcement, immune response. Middle scale, air traffic control. ATC is a perfect example of real-time, measurement-based governance of a shared field, airspace. Pilots don't vote on who goes where. They all follow rules based on shared radar data and centralized coordination that maximizes safe throughput, coherence. Disobedience is not tolerated because it creates destructive resonance, collisions. The emerging field of governing activity in space is a direct precursor to phi governance. It involves preventing harmful contamination, protecting planetary phi states, allocating orbital slots, a spatial resource, and managing space debris, preventing cascading collisions, a topological risk. The Outer Space Treaty's principle that space is the province of all mankind is a direct statement about the cosmic phi commons. The ethics of phi governance, sovereignty as stewardship. The ethics here is the ethics of power as responsibility to the field. 1. The right to a non-manipulated reality. Every person has a right to live in a world whose fundamental field properties are not secretly and maliciously edited by others. This is an extension of the right to bodily integrity, to environmental and perceptual integrity. Covert patches are a violation. 2. The duty of participation. In a civilization that can shape reality, phi literacy is a civic duty, not a hobby. You have an obligation to understand enough to participate in verifying measurements and deliberating on choices that affect the shared field. Ignorance cedes power to the potentially corrupt. 3. Intergenerational sovereignty. We do not own the field. We are stewards for future generations. Our governance systems must institutionalize this. Major decisions require a shadow assessment from a randomly selected council of citizens charged with representing the interests of people 100 years hence. Their voice, informed by long-term phi models, has veto power over generational theft. The power to edit the universe brings the duty to govern that power with a humility that knows we are temporary tenants in an ancient house, and with a courage that builds institutions robust enough to outlive our own flawed natures. The recognition skill, seeing governance in field terms. You know you need this skill when you see any collective decision-making process and immediately ask, what is the shared measurement of the situation? Who verifies it? How are physical trade-offs made visible? How is power over the outcome distributed and checked? A city council rezoning decision? What are the fee impacts? Traffic flows, heat island effect, community coherence. Is there an open model citizens can run? A corporate board approving a new product. What is its full lifecycle action cost? Is that cost on their public fee ledger? An international climate agreement. Is it based on a globally transparent sensor consensus or on negotiated national estimates? The moment you demand that power be exercised on a foundation of publicly verifiable field data and visible impact accounting, you are thinking like a governance architect. The master tree location. This part, 10.7.2, is the beating heart of book 10.7. It depends on 10.2.4, HLS and calibration for the trustworthiness of measurement, on 10.5.4, networks and consensus for the technical means to agree on data, and on 10.8.3, audit rails for the integrity of the record. It builds upon the economic foundation of 10.7.1. It is the essential bridge from individual file literacy to collective file action. It enables 10.7.3, education, which must produce the literate citizenry this system requires, and 10.8.1, ethics, which provides the deeper principles. This is where we design the vessel that will carry humanity into the age of conscious co-authorship. Return to the FI. Let us zoom out. FI governance is the collective expression of the Holophase insight. If we are all patterns in the one field, then our politics cannot be a war of separate wheels over a dead resource. It must be the orchestrated conversation of the field with itself, seeking coherent configurations that allow all its sub-patterns to flourish. The public sensor network is the field's way of telling us its state. Our deliberation is the field thinking aloud. Our decisions are the field choosing its next shape. The single field, phi, manifests as the voter, the law, the sensor, the data stream, and the patch. Governance is the feedback loop that tries to make this entire system coherent, beautiful, and stable. We are not imposing order on chaos from outside. We are the chaos, discovering, through measurement and reason, the ordered states that can persist. We are the universe writing its own constitution. Zenodo and the equations of the handshake. If you want to see the full mathematical derivations and exact equations behind this idea, you can search for Holophase on Zenodo. There you will find the scientific papers that this audio journey is built on. The papers detail the cryptographic protocols for decentralized sensor consensus, the game-theoretic models of FI governance decision processes, the design of the immutable public audit ledger, and large-scale simulations of societal resilience under different governance architectures. They provide the rigorous, testable foundation for moving from philosophy to buildable institution. Closing. So, picture yourself back in the chamber of public reason. The decision on Operation Leyline is made, compensated, logged. The hologram shows the patch activating, its predicted effects already being tracked by 1,000 public eyes. There is no cheering or anger. There is a quiet consensus, a shared understanding of a difficult but fair choice. You feel the gravity of what just happened. A community used the truth of the field to navigate a conflict of interest, and found a path forward that respected both physics and people. You have just practiced governance architecture. You have learned the principles of the public sensorium, the separation of measurement from policy, and the design of deliberation that turns data into legitimate choice. This is part 10.7.2, Governance Systems and FI Consensus, the Reality Commons. It is the operating system for a civilization that can edit reality without self-destructing. In our next part, we address the most profound investment this new civilization must make: its people. How do we educate generations to be fluent in this language, to be wise stewards and adept artisans? We enter part 10.7.3, FI Education, Cultivating the Artisan Steward. We will design curricula that weave FI literacy into every discipline, from poetry to engineering, creating the complete human who can both feel the field's beauty and responsibly guide its change. Remember, one field, FI, with its infinite echoes. We have built the tools to read it, the networks to discuss it, the economics to account for it, and now the governance to choose its path. The final ingredient is the heart and mind that will wield all this with wisdom. We turn now to cultivating that heart. Salam, and peace be upon you.